Okay, let me get this down here. Okay, I'm going to go into SAP. I have some things set up. We're going to talk about counters on equipment. I never did a session on this, so I want to make sure that I went ahead and opened up a piece of equipment that was deleted so we can play with it and show you how it works. So we go into this piece of equipment. Of course, you see it's been deleted. I'm going to delete it later, but I'm going to show you about the counters. So, of course, measurement documents is is where you put your counters in here. They measure how long the each, like the engine, I'd have hour meters. That's for the engine, and then we have frame hours. That's how long the frame's been in existence, and then torque hours, which is the torque converter, and then also the transmission hours. So what I want to do is show you can add a new, whenever you're adding a counter, you say new counter, and then you put in what the counter name is. You can put, I don't know, I put frame again, and then it's going to ask you what kind of counter is it, and then you choose, well, it's a PM counter, a PM meter, hour meter counter, or it's a mileage. So you have a car with miles and you want to keep track of it, you can do it by miles or by hours. So then you would just say it's an hour meter. And then you can make it, I think, what did I put on here? Because if I check it, it should pull it in. So here I put, I can copy this and I can put it in this location. Anyway, so it's like number 2. We'll put number 2 to distinguish it. And you see there's no check marks here. And just to let you know, this is a counter, so you would click that. And then if you want to know what this is where you can carry over. If you want the first thing we have on the list is the hour meter. So the hour meter is, you're going to be changing the oil in the piece of equipment all the time, so you're always updating the hour meter on a regular basis every 300 hours or whatever I think the schedule is. And then so you never want to click this. This is to be able to carry over those hours to the next meter. So the difference between the last hour meter and the current hour meter, the difference will be carried over into the frame hours. So once you set the frame hours and once you set the torque hours, then any extra, whatever the hours are at the beginning when you first start, any extra hours that were added. So every time you put on to your hour meter, the difference will go on to these counters automatically. So if it's 10 hours difference, 10 hours will go to each one of these and keep up with the hours of these. So I know it's going to be hard. I'm trying to do it just to have it, and then you can hopefully, if I'm not explaining it too well, you can figure it out later. Anyway, so if you click on this and you want to right click help, it tells you this is the description of what it's saying. It says indicator that measure reading transfer is desirable for this measuring point. If the measuring point is a counter, the counter reading difference are transferred. So anyway, you can pause it and read this, and it tells you all about, to measure that measuring reading can exactly be transferred. You must assign another measuring point to the counter reading point for which the measuring reading or counter reading differences are to be transferred. So when you first start out, you need to put in what is the actual reading on that when you put it in. Maybe it's your instead of a frame, it was the transmission hours. So when you want to do anything to these counters to transfer it over, let's say like the one I have here, I want to transfer So I go in here and you see this little button here. This gets you over in here. Now at this point, you can do the transfer, and what I want to do is which counter do you want to transfer from? And you pull this down and you want to transfer it from, so we got to go find those readings. So we go back. This is the counter I want to use, which is the hour meter. So I want to copy this, Control C. Then I want to go into, I already have this checked, it's going to go into this frame hour. This is the new one I put in, number 2, you see here. So I want to go into there, and so I want to be able to transfer hours from this one into this one. So then I put assign manually, and then I put in the counter, and then it says measure transfer reading to this measuring point object. You're saying yes, I want this. So then you green check it again. You say okay. So now the counter, it's going to support this counter, and it's going to transfer any differences from when every time you put it in, it's going to transfer to this meter. So then you just, after you get done, you back out, and now it's been added. But there's no counter reading on this one yet. So to add the actual counting, you have to add a document to here. Now, once you add a document, you cannot delete it. So if you ever try to delete this counter right now, you can't delete it. I mean, you can delete it because there's no counter readings on it. But once you add a counter reading to this counter, it will not let you delete it. It stays in there forever. Like these, I can't delete. If I go in here and try, let's see if I can function, activate. I think there was a button in here to delete. Yeah, delete entry. And it's going to say number of selected entries to delete. Yes. It's going to say one measuring will not be deleted as measuring points already exist. So you cannot delete it because there's a measuring point already on there. But if I go to this one, it's going to actually let me delete it because I haven't added a document on there. I mean a counter. So to get a counter, now also in here you want to make sure that you don't deactivate it because you can deactivate these counters. Once you deactivate it, it won't show up on your counter list, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So now we're going to go to another window. We're going to back out of here and save it. Now that we added that, as soon as it saves, it's taking a long time. Come on. Okay. So now we're going to go into changing counter readings. No. Entry. This is it. So to find out what transaction it is, it's this one. It's the K2, what is it? 1IK22. So we go into here, and then we go green check it. So now you see there's no counters in here. So what you want to do, you want to pull in all measuring points on the object. Now, if it's inactive, it's not going to pull it in. So the frame hours one is active. This one is active, and this one is active, and this one is active. So I can add counter readings to this. Now, just to show you, I don't know why this one is still active. I'm going to go ahead and deactivate it, and I'll show you what I mean. So if I go back out, say no, I don't want to make any changes, and I want to go back into that equipment and deactivate the other one, because I can see it's activated, and it's letting me be able to put counter readings in. See, the reason I want to deactivate it, it's still going to carry over and transfer those hours to those other components on the piece of equipment. But you don't want to be able to put counters in there and somebody messing up and adding stuff to these counters that you've created on this equipment. So now that I'm back in here, I'm going to measuring point. Now apparently this other frame hours is on there. So what we do is we go in here and we can just go into measuring point, function, active, deactivate. So let's deactivate this frame hours because I don't want to see it. When somebody's adding a count a measurement document, you don't want this showing up unless you want to change things on it. So then I back out and back out and I save it. So now, if everything works well, it shouldn't show up. Oh, come on, the system is running slow. Okay, so now we're going to go back in here. We're going to open this up. We're going to add our points. And as you can tell, that other frame hours is missing now. Only the hour meter, which I'll always stay active. Never deactivate your hour meter for your PMs. But the frame hours, the one we just created, now is active. Now what you want to do is you want to start it. Let's, like I said, if it was something else, you can start at whatever hours you want to. So to go in here, you have to go up here and you click this. And here now is when you want to, if you added a new counter or if it's a new counter reading, you can say the reading on here is, since it's a new counter, function, here, edit, counter, replace counter. So here you can replace a counter replacement, or it's just a normal counter reading, or it's total. You can make these counters if your counter is 0 and your difference can be, anyway, it's hard to explain. So it's kind of like a new counter, so I can put in like 10 hours. Let's see if I can do this, 10 hours. And so because it doesn't have any other counters on there, it's not going to show a difference. So let's say we put it in, it had already 10 hours on the frame because, really it should have 0. So I can put 1 hour or 0 hours. I don't know if you can put 0 hours, but you can put 1 hour. Let's see if we can put 0 hours. It's probably going to say I have to put something in there, so it's a brand new counter. Okay, and then we back out. So now it's saying this has 0 hours. We're starting out today, and it's a brand new frame. Save it. And as we wait, okay. So if we want to see if that counter is in there, let's see if it shows up. So this is a list of counters. It shows you all the counters on that piece of equipment. So it says change measuring points. So the measuring points is the measurement documents. So if you run it, that's the piece of equipment that we're messing with. Hopefully there's nothing else in here. What's this? I don't know. So the measuring point is, gotta go back and get it now. I think it's this one. I get rid of these other ones on the water, and here, let's get rid of them. Delete. So now we go Control V. I think that's the one we've been working with. What's the equipment number? Control C. Okay, now let's go in there. Oops. Control V. Oh, with our way out. Huh. Wonder why it's doing that. Let me pause. Okay. So apparently I didn't have the right equipment number in there, so now I do. So here's the equipment number. Now it's going to show the 2 measurement documents that are still active in there, and it shows that no amount of, if we wanted to change anything in here, we can go in here. I think you can go to change, not the equipment. So now you see there's no hours in here. Now if we go in and we put some hours, we can say back in here and add, let's say we're going to add two. We're going to add some hours to this one. So I don't know what the previous measurement was. So if I add 10 hours to this, will it carry over? I don't know what the actual counter reading was before. Let's see if we can find out. Counters. Okay. So all we want to do now is look up the, see, I got variance in here. Illustration. Current variant, get variant. So see, I made different ones so you can look at how many hours, let's say frame hours, engine hours. So I want to see engine hours. So now it's only going to show me the engine hours. And so the engine hours, the last engine hour was 18,944. So it's not showing me the readings. Pause it here a minute. 944. Okay, this was the last counter reading. 2020 is 21105. 21105. Huh, I guess I'm still recording. Alright, well anyway, what I found out is that I have to go into the Equipment Master and go into here to find the counter reading, which I guess you're already watching me, the hour meter. And then you go into the measurement documents for that hour meter and you run it. And then you'll see the last measurement document was 21,000 hours. You copy that. So that way you can add a few extra hours on there. We're going to the measurement document here. We're going to say, the counter reading was, of course, we don't want the point there. So let's say now it's, we're going to add 300 hours, so it's 2405 or 2400. Yeah, 2400. So 2 or 4. That's right, it's 405. So let's go back and put 405. So now it says 405, so it should give us like 305 hours or 300 hours. So there you go. So 300 hours is going to be added to it, which is going to give 300 hours is also going to be transferred to the other equipment. So if we save it, copy the readings, hopefully I'm not in it, because if you're in the equipment in change mode, it's going to say you can't do it. Okay, it says the 2 measurement documents were created. Okay, so now if we go back in, let's go back into the piece of equipment. If I refresh this, it's going to show you, I just put it in, you see the 300 hours. So now that 300 hours added to all the other documents also. So if you go into the other measurement document, which is the frame that we just put in there, because I did this, it should transfer those 300 hours to the frame hours. So now if you go into measuring documents and you run it, it's going to show you 50 of them. And so see, now it has 300 hours. The difference of that transfer, it came transferred over, and now it's added to this counter, and the total measurements on this counter on this frame is 300 hours. And now the next time we add another 300, so this is going to read 600. So if I go back in here and I add another 300 to when I'm doing the oil changes, and I add another 300 to this measurement document, I pull in. Again, it's only showing those 2. I must be in it. It's locked. See, it's locked by me because I'm in it. So I got to go back out of the equipment. 1, which is this one. I'm back out. Get out of the equipment because I'm in equipment change. So now I can go back in here and I can look at, let's see, it's right here. So now if I go in, it's going to let me do it. Again, my measuring point. See, it keeps showing this frame. Now, if I don't want to see this frame anymore, all I got to do is go back into the equipment. No, I don't want to mess with this. Go back into the equipment in change mode. I find the counter, go in the measurement counter point. Find the counter, which is this new one I made, frame number 2. There it is. And let's go ahead, now that it's set up and it's taking points, I can go ahead and deactivate it so I don't see it when I deactivate it. Now it's just saying that it's still going to collect data from our counter, the differences from the hour meter. See, it's feeding off this hour meter. Every one of these I put in as being that 10516 is on every one of these because it's carrying over from that 10516. So it's looking at the difference. Every time I put a new counter reading in here, it's looking at the difference and it's carrying it over onto every one of these counters, the difference. So just like if I look at this one, you'll see, well, now let's save it. I wanted to finish my point here. Because here I went in here and I deactivated this counter. So you can see, so I would have to make it active again. So if I back out, and I save it, oh, come on. I'm still waiting. Okay. So now if I go in here and try to add a counter reading, again, this transaction code, just to let you know, is this one here, the IK22, to add counter readings. So when you're going to check it, it's keeping that same equipment in there. Now you'll see when I go to pull it in, it's only going to pull in one because I deactivated that other counter, but it's still going to carry over the numbers. So let's say I want to add, see if I still have it in here. Yep, still has that. But now, remember it was 405. So now let's say it's on the 400, 300 hours more will be 4, 5, 6, 700 hours, 705. So it's going to add another 300. And if I green check it, it's going to say, yes, another 300 hours is going to be added. Because now the counter reading, now it's going to carry over those 300 hours to those other counters. So I save it. Most of this video is going to be waiting. Okay, now if I go back into that piece of equipment, and I go into measuring points, you'll see now when I look at this frame hours, it's going to have, I run it, it's going to show the last 50. It's going to have 600 hours. See, the difference was 300. So you take this 300, add it to that 300, and you get the 600. So you take this 300, add it to this, it makes 600. So now the total is 600 hours. So this way, it keeps adding. Now, let's say I decide, hey, I'm going to change. I'm terrible. I used the frame hours. I should have used the transmission. Because let's say I decide to take this transmission out, this transmission, I wanted to replace it. So we go in here. We're going to have to see that counter now in order to change it. So in order to see that counter, we have to go into it and activate it again. Function, and we want to activate this one because we're going to change the counter reading to 0 again because we put a brand new transmission in this old piece of equipment that has a lot of frame hours. So we go in here, we activate it. So now we go back out, we save it. So now we'll go in and we're going to add, we're going to change the counter. And because it's a new piece of equipment, we're going to run this. And we're going to say, give me all the measuring points that are active. And here we go, the transmission. But since it's a new transmission, we want to start this out at 0. So we go into measuring point. Well, sorry, we go here. And again, and what we want to do, we want to edit this. I want you to put in exactly what I tell you to put in. I want to zero everything out. So we go here. You see it has this number. We want to take this out. And we want 0 hours exactly. So we put 0 here and we put 0 here. So it's a brand new transmission. So now it's going to start this at 0 again. So we save it. And as we wait, so now if we go back in to that counter read, let's double click it. We go on the measuring points. We go on to, that's where we did the transmission. Go in here, measuring documents. So there again, now we got a new transmission with 0 hours on it. And because you can see this transmission had those extra hours added to it. You see the 300 hours we just did. We did it today on the 6/1. And now we put a new transmission in. We said, okay, while we were doing the PM, let's say for that 300, those extra hours. So now we changed the transmission. So now we're starting out with 0, a brand new transmission. So now, if we want to, there is a way of looking at it. Now, what you want to do now, too, is you want to go back in here, and you want to set this where you don't add any more counter readings to this. So function, and you want to deactivate it. So again, once you set it as deactivated, it's still going to take the difference counters from the PM, the difference on the PM. Go back out, we save it, and then you go back in. Again, if you look at it, you'll find out, again, you won't see it when we want to pull in the active counters. It's only going to pull up. I guess I'm still in change mode somewhere. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Oh, maybe I did. Oh, I forgot to add the 300 hours. Let me go back in and do it. I think I deactivated, so now it's not going to show up. See, it's just showing up the meter reading. So I add another 300 hours to this, which was last one was 700. So now we got. See, it's saying it's going to roll the counter because I clicked it. So let's go to. Come on, I know I got to change it. So it's 2,100, 2,000. So now it's 295 hours. So we can save it, adding another counter. As we wait, okay, let's see now. I had it where you can pull up a list of counters for that piece of equipment. So instead of 50, we just want to see the last counters. So we can go 0, 1. Whoops. All right, let's look at the last 5. Or just 1. Okay. So now it's going to show me all the counters that we had in there and the last readings we just put in. So here we just put the engine hours. This is that new frame hours. Now we add 295 hours to it was 600 hours. 7, 8, or no, it was, yeah, 600 hours, 7, 8, 95. So, let's see, and then you got so that's that new frame hours. And then we have the frame hours for, you can see it added the 295 to all of them. And I don't use this. I wish I could get rid of this. But again, once it has a counter reading on it, you cannot change the count. You cannot delete that counter. So let's pause. Now, I found out how to, when we want to look at now how many hours the frame hours has, how many hours the engine hours has, what you would do is you go into your counters, display measurement documents, and then you want to pull up the equipment that you want to look at. Before we're looking at all the haul trucks, so but you can pull up all the equipment, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and delete what's in here now. We're going to pull in all the mobile equipment, which I have a variant for the mobile equipment. So we go in and pull the variant for the mobile equipment. So here's the haul trucks, but I'm going to pull in all mobile equipment. So then we're going to run it. Select them all, green check it, so pull them all in, and we're going to add it to this measurement document. We want to look at these measurement documents. I only want to see one, I don't want to see a whole bunch. Just the last ones that were put in, and I want to see with or without the reverse indicator, because I want to see, you know, how we reversed and made it where you don't see it when you add counter readings, but I want to see them all in order to get this report. So what the report's going to be is to find out what is the oldest piece of equipment that has the oldest engine, the oldest frame hours. So if we ever want to purchase a new one, we can find out. So then we're just going to run it. So pull them all in. So what you want to do now is we can go in here and we want to pull in layout. We want to get the layout. In the layout, we can look at, let's say, remember the frame hours we just did? So what's the oldest equipment that has these frame hours? And there it is. So the oldest piece of equipment that has the frame hours is this one here, which is 12/6/27. And I think that's the one that was deleted. And here, the youngest frame hours is the 12/6/27 again, because we have two counter readings. We just recently added this counter reading, which you can see I didn't put hours here. Remember, we had 895 hours. Well, there it is. So that's because we had just put this one in here to be testing it. So again, this way you can keep track of what's the oldest equipment that has frame hours. So let's say you got a little extra capital money and you wanted to purchase another transmission. So let's find out what's the oldest piece of equipment. Say layout, get layout, the oldest piece of equipment for, let's say, transmission hours. So I want a new transmission. I'm going to buy it. So what's the oldest one? Apparently it is 25/4/52 in FEC. And see, it has 50,000 hours. Now, that's a old piece of equipment. Now, sometimes if they had the wrong frame hours in there, or the counter we cannot change, then that might not be correct. But anyway, then again, it shows you the youngest one is this transmission hours is 12/2/27. Transmission hours. Well, that's right, because I think we made a new one in this too, on the transmission hours. Because I don't think we ever had it turned on. Anyway, that's it for that. I just wanted to show you all how you can change, add counter readings, and then what's the benefit from it. Anyway, I guess we're going to